I'd like to call to order this regular meeting of the Lenox Township Board of Trustees, Monday, August 2nd, 2021 at 6:30 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of meeting agenda.
Mr. Supervisor, I am aware of no changes to the current agenda. Therefore, I make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Approval of minutes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes from the meeting 6/7/21 and 7/21/21.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Public announcements. Public comment.
Good evening, Dave Rogers, Pine Tree Acres landfill, 36600 29 Mile Road. I'm the district manager. It's my understanding that one of the agenda items this evening is to hire additional sheriff from Macomb County to enforce blown litter and other violations along Gratiot. And I just wanted to reiterate that Pine Tree Acres is responsible for picking up any kind of blown litter along Gratiot from 28 Mile Road all the way up to 30 Mile Road. We're also responsible for litter, debris along 29 and 28 Mile Roads adjacent to the landfill. I feel that we do a good job addressing the township and the citizens of the local areas' concerns and complaints, and that we're very responsive to any phone calls, any complaints that are made. If that's not the case, I feel that I would like anybody to get a hold of myself when it does happen as soon as possible, and we will try our darndest to get things cleaned up. We're out there on a regular basis or as needed, and just want to reiterate that as well. Any questions? Thank you.
My name is Dave Mary. I live on Frost Road. I've got a couple little things. The kids around in the area were kind of like promised a splash pad and a sledding hill. I just wondered what the progress is on that. And on 26 Mile Road at the east entrance, beyond county line, the east entrance to the trailer park. You need a passing pad, like you got out here. Because they're building up and there's a lot of cars going in there. And a lot of cars going on the shoulder of the road and throwing rocks and dirt up. Just wondering what could be done with that. That's all.
Hi, my name is Joe Marino. I'm a planning commission member in Lenox Township. I'd like to say, job well done for waste management. You guys have done a good job in front of my place. So keep up the good work. One of the items that I'd like to bring across, I'd like to find out what or who has been in charge of helping out our neighboring communities when Armada had that tornado. I myself, under the direction of, with the help of Bernie Williams, another local resident, took my big generator out there. Actually took both big generators out there, helped out several residents with keeping their basements dry, keeping the power up. What I'm wondering is, I did not saw a lot of other communities. I did not see much from Lenox Township, and Armada is really close. God forbid anything like that happens to us. We should be there to help them. They'll be there to help us. With that, I think that's all I've got to say on this. Thank you.
Consent agenda. All items listed on this consent agenda are considered routine by the Township Board and will be enacted by one motion. According to established Township meeting rules, there will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the Board or public so requests at or prior to the meeting, in which event the chair of the meeting may remove such items from the consent agenda for discussion and consideration under agenda item number 8 below. Approval of the consent agenda shall be a majority roll call vote of those present and voting.
Okay, Mr. Supervisor, you have in front of you the invoices for board approval. We have $523,287.69 currently owed, with an additional $245,331.62 that was paid during the month, for a total of $768,619.31 for approval.
I will make a motion to accept the consent agenda with orders and bills in the amount of $768,619.31.
Second.
May the Deputy Clerk please call the roll?
Connell,
Aye.
Clifford,
Aye.
Reader,
Aye.
Gurley,
Aye.
Kendall.
Aye.
New business, Fire Department bunker gear purchase request. Mr. White.
Good evening, honorable members of the board and the public in attendance. If I could, I'd like to just quickly comment on Mr. Marino's public comments with regards to assistance in Armada. The EMS was, in fact, in Armada. We handled an incident on Omo Road in that community. So the Richmond Lenox EMS was there. We weren't anywhere near where the TV cameras were, which was right in the middle of town. But for those of you that have been through Armada since the tornado, a tremendous amount of the damage was kind of north of Armada Ridge up to Armada Center and kind of moved in a northeasterly direction from there. So we were out by Omo Road in Irwin, assisting where we were able or where we were called. As for the fire department, fire departments in this county work in a really very structured mutual aid capacity, and we offer mutual aid anytime it is requested. We simply never got a request. We don't simply send resources because something bad has happened. We wait for the incident commander of that scene to notify us, and then we respond accordingly. We never received a request, so we did not deploy resources. We also did offer our small buses for use if they had any evacuation needs, but they they did not need those at the time. So there were some offers made of support from our community to theirs, and I'm certain they would reciprocate. Heaven forbid we would go through that or some other incident here. I had spoke to a couple of board members before tonight's meeting, because after I had sent out my agenda item, something came to our attention that I wanted to address here this evening, because I think it is really some of the good and bad news of our department. The good news is we find young men and young women that want to come and spend 20 years of their lives serving our community. The bad news is then they occasionally retire and move on or move out of their community. And such was the case tonight when I was notified that firefighter Jason Lockwood would be retiring after 20 plus years with the Lenox Fire Department as he is relocating outside of our community. The board said I could take a minute to acknowledge him tonight. So I'm going to ask Chief Hartway to come up and Jason to come up. Jason, on behalf of Lenox Township, our citizens, those who live in and travel through our community, you have been a tremendous asset to Lenox Township, and you will be as tremendous a loss, unfortunately, to our community. We understand things change in life and have to move on, but on behalf of all of us, we'd like to present you your helmet as a momentum of our appreciation. Thank you. Jason's one of those guys, I'd love for him to say a few words, but it'd be a few more words than I've normally ever heard him say. Jason's one of those kind of quiet heroes. You always knew where he was on a scene, though, not because his mouth was moving, but because his feet and his hands were, because he was that kind of a worker for Lenox Fire Department. So thank you again, Jason. And then before going on, I have one more just good news item that I'd like to share, because it's really just a public safety good news piece of information. Thanks to the work of Chief Marty Hartway, he applied through the State Fire Marshal's office, and we received a number of smoke detectors and CO detectors, which are available for us to hand out to anyone who needs them while supplies last. Sounds like maybe we can request some additional ones if we go through these first devices. So I want to commend Marty. Oh, Marty's not here, but okay. I still want to commend our Fire Chief Marty Hartway for getting that done. In order to receive a CO detector or a smoke alarm, you can either email publicsafety@lenoxtownship.org. That's just an easy email to remember, publicsafety@lenoxtwp.org, or call the fire department at the station at 586-749-6677, and we'll get that information up on the Public Safety Department's Facebook page as well, so that it can be shared in the community. Actually, on to the actual agenda item, on the actual agenda tonight, and I appreciate you letting me deviate just a little bit for those two kind of important announcements. On the agenda for this evening is the purchase of 4 sets of turnout gear. This was budgeted for this year as part of our regular budget process. The company is MES Douglas Safety Systems. The amount of the turnout gear is $8,880. We only get one vendor for this because it's important that all turnout gear kind of matches and kind of works and acts the same within the fire service. So that's why we don't get you multiple bids, even though this is a fairly large purchase. And as opposed to having to buy this all at once and having 1 year where we have a $40,000 or $50,000 bill, I had taken the approach of buying 4 or 5 sets of turnout gear a year based on our budget and what we could afford in order to replace gear that is worn out or needs to be added. I'm really pleased to say some of this is additional gear, because we are now up, I think, if I take Jason off and put the others on, we're up to about 18 firemen, and I think that's about 4 or 5 more than were participating just a couple of years ago. So we continue to make progress with our fire department recruiting. So with that, I would simply request that the board award the bid for the fire department turnout gear in the amount of $8,800 to MES Douglas Safety Systems.
And Mr. White, that is in your, I did hear you say that was in your budget.
It was in the budget, yes sir, I did include that in the budget.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to accept the proposal from, I don't know what the company is here, but to purchase a fire department gear at the amount explained to me. I'm looking for that. I don't see that either. but-
$8,800
Oh, on the backside.
was the, if you're looking for the office equipment.
Oh, I got you. Thank you. At the amount of $8,880 from Douglas Safety Systems. Thank you.
Second.
May the deputy clerk please call the roll.
Clifford,
Aye.
Gurley,
Aye.
Kendall,
Aye.
Reader,
Aye.
Connell.
Aye.
Item B, Macomb County Sheriff Department contract. Mr. White.
So, thank you. First, I'd like to take a minute and welcome and thank some of our law enforcement partners who are here this evening. From the Macomb County Sheriff's Department, we have Sergeant Jeff McPherson and Commander Jason Ambrose sitting there in the back of the room. Sergeant McPherson is actually a resident here in Lenox Township, so really he takes a very personal interest in our law enforcement, which is great. These gentlemen have been wonderful to deal with as we work through the, I don't like to call it negotiation, but really the renewal of our agreement with the Macomb County Sheriff's Department. The Sheriff's Department does a wonderful job in our community. They bring a number of assets here. Thanks particularly to Sergeant McPherson. We have a exceptional working relationship with the Sheriff's Department where we exchange information literally weekly and sometimes more often than that about what's going on in the community and things that we might be able to do to improve public safety here in Lenox Township. So this year's agreement, or this 3-year agreement, is in the amount of $869,651, with an approximate 2% increase each year in year 2 and 3, basically about a cost of living kind of increase that goes with it. Everybody has those numbers in front of them in the packet. This year I started looking at an issue that is a great concern to me, as a paramedic and a public safety official here in your community for the past 30 years. I think everybody's well aware that 26 Mile Road has become 26 Mile Road and Gratiot Avenue specifically have become very major travel corridors in Macomb County. I'm not telling anybody here anything that they don't know. We've seen tremendous increases in both civilian and commercial traffic through these areas. And so this year, we proposed adding one more daytime deputy at a cost of $155,279 for the officer and an additional $31,000 for the vehicle. This deputy's position will be to ensure the safety of these main travel corridors. The deputy will, in fact, be trained in commercial and vehicle enforcement and have the appropriate equipment to address any matters when they arise. With all the development we have going on, with windmills that go up Gratiot Avenue into the Thumb, with the development that is on the books up and coming, and the commercial traffic that development brings to a community, I think it's reasonable that an added deputy have the ability to review and deal with commercial issues as well as civilian vehicle issues. And so basically we ask that person be able to do both of the jobs. I've talked to a lot of people in the community about this because it's been something I've been talking about for probably the last 8 or 9 months since I kind of took over the role as your public safety director. And it's really interesting the response I get when I talk to people about it. Everybody is thrilled. I've yet to meet the person who doesn't say, "What a great idea." And the reason they say it's a great idea is because then immediately they begin telling a story of their own near miss on Gratiot Avenue. It happened with a couple of our board members when I started discussing with them. And they say, "Oh yeah, I had this terrible near miss. Or my family, or my child, or my husband." And that's the response I kept getting. And I said, well, there must be something to this. Everybody seems to have a Gratiot Avenue or a 26-mile road near Miss Story. And so, in my opinion, after all these years of providing your public safety, not adding this deputy is kind of the equivalent of saying we don't need the automated defibrillator in the hallway. And I didn't need to just spend the last few months of my life in a very large development that we're all going to be very proud to open here soon, doing fire inspections, because I can't quantify the tragedy that we prevented. This deputy, in my opinion, is a tragedy prevented. My philosophy on public safety I've shared with many of you has been simple. I'd rather prevent an emergency than respond to one. Therefore, I respectfully recommend the approval of the agreement presented and would welcome any questions the board might have.
Mr. White, we've talked about, and with all due respect to the sheriffs, but if you're having near misses at an intersection, I'm just throwing it out there, you're going to have garbage trucks pulling out, cutting cars off. That's what they do. There's no light there to prevent that from happening. If you, 30 years at the road commission, if we put, I'm throwing it out there, if we did put a traffic light there, and you disagreed with me before, that would stop traffic. You leave the light green until the trucks pull up, the camera reads it, then they get a clear shot to pull out instead of pulling out and cutting off cars. These guys have done a great job for us. I'm not sure adding $180,000 to the budget is the right way to go about it. And nothing against the sheriff's department. I worked with them for years in traffic control on traffic signals at the road commission. But whether this is the right way to go, I'm not sure, because it's not, you're not stopping anybody from pulling out in front of those cars now. And right now, you're mentioning safety. We got to throw that out there, because they can't sit there 24/7 and watch a truck pull out in front of somebody and write them a ticket. And then if we start singling out certain vehicles coming off 29 or any other road, that we can't single those out, we're opening ourselves up for something here, singling out vehicles. Now, I appreciate all the work you've done on this, but I'm having reservations about this, because those guys, no matter what they do, they can write all the tickets they want. They're not going to stop these guys from pulling out if there's no light there. I'll be very honest. We put lights in special situations that would stop that all over the county. And I did it for 30 years. I know what's happening. So I'm just throwing it out there to the board, that this is something to think about, because it's just not, I don't know if it's going to solve the problem if you're talking about safety.
Well, again, I'm not looking at any specific intersection with this idea. I think it's happened from 26-mile to 32-mile road, or I guess they have 19 cut off, and they happen frequently across 26-mile road near the Myers and the Beaumont, where there's going to be a lot of an increased traffic pattern. So simply what I'm saying is, if 29-mile in Gratiot, as you pointed out, needs a signal, then maybe we should be doing both. But I still don't think it's one or the other. And what I mean by that is simply that if our sheriff's deputies, if the road commission can help us identify that as an issue, if it makes sense to those people, then absolutely, I think we should entertain discussions about a light and the type of light that would go at any given intersection in our community. But I think that signals and speed limit signs and other information that is found along our highway is wonderful. And I also think that without enforcement, it doesn't mean much. And right now, I don't think, given the traffic we have throughout our township, that one deputy on duty per day, who oftentimes, I can tell you probably 3 or 4 different times today, was tied up on this incident with our local EMS, is going to be available to do the traffic enforcement we need to keep our community safe. Because they're busy on their other responsibilities.
Has there been any, in your research here, has there been any, I don't have a clip, I'm sorry, I'm holding this up, but has there been any research that we had an uptick in accidents at any intersection where we would warrant people pulling out, say 29, 26, I don't care what road it is, you look at that, and I says, if there's an uptick in fatalities, accidents, I would hope that came into play. Has anybody done a study, or that you know of, or you, that would warrant this as far as, because when we did traffic signals before, we waited on doing studies. We took traffic counts, we counted fatalities, accidents. It's a shame you have to do that. I know you're trying to prevent a tragedy, and I respect that. But that's what we always base putting traffic signals up on, and warn and doing things to prevent it. I mean, these are just things I'm trying, it doesn't have to be 28, 29, could be any street. I just don't know, a code enforcement officer's trained in this. We do have a lot of truck traffic going up Pine Tree Acres, what do you call them, windmills, all that stuff. I mean, we get that, but that's not going away, it's a state highway. But it's, I'm just not so sure. I don't know if there's been any studies. Anybody on the board know of any? Or the sheriff?
Anecdotally, I can tell you that there have been far more accidents the last few years along 26 Mile Road than probably on any other corridor in the county.
26?
26 Mile Road, which I mentioned in my remarks. In that area, it just had to do with the amount of traffic there. I can tell you we just had a horrific accident with a township vehicle at 26 Mile Road and county line that I can share because it was widely published on the news. So yes, these are occurring in our community. No, in all the meetings that I had with various officials to discuss concerns and thoughts they had about this, nobody had ever asked me for those numbers. So tonight, all I can give you is the anecdotal information to tell you that yes, it appears to be occurring. Yes, it seems to be occurring more often. Thankfully, severity generally in accidents tends to be down just a little bit. That has to do with the engineering of automobiles. Okay, but it's kind of like this terrible COVID virus. The more times it happens, the more likely you are to get to that fatality. And frankly, you know, one of the things that's always frustrated me is we have to wait till enough people are killed to take action. When we asked the road commission, you know, for this information, they say how many fatalities. I said, you mean we need to kill another 16-year-old so we can get, so we can get something done? At the end of the day, I'm trying to take care of it in advance. Like I say, we've never used that AED out there, but I'll bet if it ever gets used on somebody, they'll sure appreciate the township audit. We've never had a significant commercial fire in this community because we have had, you know, long before even my time, we've had excellent fire prevention and excellent inspection work done by our building department and our fire service, but that costs money. And if we didn't do those things, my guess is we would have had tragedies in those areas. So I guess I'm just trying to be as proactive as some of my predecessors and do something that prevents as opposed to wait for it to occur and say, geez, I wish I had acted sooner.
Back in the day, when I was at the road commission, we had 2 Waymaster cars, deputy sheriffs work out of there. Now the protections went down. We still have 1, as far as I know, a 1 county vehicle for code enforcement and one for the state police. I believe those were in place. The state one was years ago. The gentleman, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not fighting this. I don't want anybody to die. I just want to add $180,000 to a budget and maybe not solve the problem because there's no light there. And if somebody pulls out, they're still going to pull out as soon as they see an opening. And heaven forbid these guys have to sit there for 24 hours to wait for that to happen. You know, I'm just throwing it out there. I mean, the board's going to vote, but I just want to make sure we're doing the right thing to prevent the problem. Let's put it that way.
I understand, and I think there are a number of solutions, but I think they go together, not one alone.
With that, I'll make the motion to approve the renewal of the Macomb County Sheriff's Agreement and the memorandum of understanding as written.
Second.
May the deputy clerk please call the roll?
Reader,
Aye.
Kendall,
Aye.
Connell,
Aye.
Gurley,
Nay.
Clifford.
Nay.
Item C, American Rescue Plan Workshop Discussion. Mr. White.
Yes, the last item that I have on tonight's agenda is these, what is commonly called ARPA funding. ARPA funding is the American Rescue Plan Act. Some people call it the COVID funding, whatever term you like to use for it. Recently, the township was able to make application, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, to receive our portion of the ARPA funding. That was handled through the clerk's office. As with all things government, that was a tremendous amount of work, so we owe Luann and her staff a great deal of thanks for getting through that piece of it. Started to talk with our township attorney and others in the community here recently about how those funds could be spent. And I would say there still lacks some clarity in that regard, and the documents are thick and long and written in very small font. So they're going to take some reading and review in order to get this right. So I had suggested to the clerk while she was working on getting the initial application piece done for us, that maybe we set up a workshop so that board members and appropriate department heads could all sit together and try to our best ability make certain that whatever we spend these funds on are one, get the township the most bang for its buck, if you will, and two, that we spend it within the confines of the rules. They keep saying the rules are very broad. That's what the news media kind of reports. But in my initial reading, and others I spoke to, I don't think the ability to spend them is quite as broad as what everybody has kind of said. So I think we're going to have to do a little bit of work to ensure that we do this right. And so my suggestion was, rather than do it in a public meeting, we do it through a workshop, and would like to see the township maybe set that up at a time convenient for them. I think you'd want legal counsel there, and like I say, a few of us that are department heads that might be directly involved in the use of those funds.
Do we want to set up a date today? I'll make a motion that we set up a workshop to discuss these funds. Does it have to be made today?
No, I don't think you have to set the date today, just an agreement that you're going to do it, and that I think, and I'm going to defer to Luann really quickly,